Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. I'm going to demonstrate how to make this really pretty quilt block. Now I call it basket of flowers. You will find there's probably 100 different names for this particular layout that you see here. But this is a loose representation of a basket with different color flowers in it. So down here, this brown background fabric is the basket, and these half square triangles are the flowers. Now, you can use a variety of colors in this block, or you can make the basket and the flowers all one color, or you can make the flowers all one color and a basket another color. You can also make the background dark and all of the colors in here white, or just really pale colors, or all one color. Okay, let's get started. You're going to take 8 of your 4-inch squares of your background fabric, and this is the front side of mine. The color of the dots are a little bit darker, so that's why I call it the front side. Then here is, this side is a little paler. So whatever is the side that is the lightest or palest color is the back side. You're going to draw a line from corner to corner. So align your ruler up and then just draw a line. So you're doing this on 8 of your background squares. Now you're going to pair these background squares up. You're going to take 6 of them and put it with your fabric that are to represent your flowers. You're going to bring front sides together and go ahead and pin it and then stitch right on that drawn line. And then you're going to do the same thing with 2 of your 4-inch squares for the basket. After you stitched everything, then you want to press your seam with your iron. When you're making quilt blocks, one of the most important steps is pressing. So don't skip that part. Don't finger press. Use your iron. That relaxes your stitches and makes your fabric stay nice and flat. Now we're going to trim one side off. I'm going to put my 1/4 inch line that's on my ruler right on the stitch line. And then use your rotary cutter to cut that side off. You're doing that to all of your half square triangles. Then you're going to go back to your ironing board and press again. And this time you're going to press this seam towards whichever is your darkest fabric. So I usually have my iron on this side. I'm a lefty. And I just gently push against this seam and press it going towards my darkest fabric. If you want to be a success at quilting, you need a square ruler. If you're just getting started, I recommend you buy a 12.5-inch square ruler because you can use it for so many different things in quilting. This just happens to be a smaller one. But all of your quilting rulers have a diagonal line that goes from corner to corner. You're going to take this diagonal line and put it right on this diagonal seam going across here. So place that on there. And then you're going to have your 3.5-inch space on the ruler. We want to cut these down to 3.5 inches. So you're going to have a little bit of fabric extending out on all 4 sides past the 3.5-inch area. So make sure, take your time lining this up. And then you're going to cut 2 sides. Cut here and then cut here. Now, take this corner and put it over here. Now put your diagonal line back on that seam. Place your 3.5-inch line over here and here on the raw edge of the fabric. So the diagonal line is here, your 3.5-inch line is on the raw edges. Then cut the last 2 edges. It's important to square all of your blocks. That way you have a better chance of your finished project coming out very squared. The bottom part of the basket is also a half square triangle. So you're going to take a 7-inch square of background fabric and a 7-inch square of your fabric for the basket. You're going to follow the same process of creating this half square triangle. So you'll draw a line from corner to corner on your background fabric. Then stitch the two pieces together, stitching right on that drawn line. Then cut off one side, leaving a 1/4 of an inch wide seam. Press your fabric seam towards the darkest fabric. Then you're going to take your ruler and you're going to place it on there and square it to 6.5 inches. Now lay all of your fabrics out like this. So you're going to have one 3.5-inch square of background fabric. Then 3 of your half square triangles representing the flowers. Then 1 more square of background fabric. Then this part of the basket and 2 half square triangles for the flowers. Then you're going to have the other piece of the basket and 1 flower and 2 3.5-inch squares down here. So we're going to stitch this section together first. So stitch these 2 together. And you're using a 1/4 of an inch wide seam throughout this entire block. Stitch these 2 together using a 1/4 of an inch seam. Then, when you press, you're going to press your seams going in the opposite direction. So I've got this one going towards my right and this one going towards the left. All right, so that's important because it helps you to match up your seams better and things lay flat and look nicer. Now we're going to stitch these 2 together. So bring it front sides together. And I'm going to match these 2 seams. It feels flat in here if I have them matched correctly because this seam is going one way and the seam on the bottom is going the other way. So I recommend you place a pin to hold it together. Then stitch a 1/4 inch wide seam across here. Then after you've done that, you want to press this. Press the seam and press the seam all going in one direction. Then you want to take this one and stitch this side and this side together. And by the time you stitch your seam, it'll match. And then stitch a 1/4 inch seam along here. Now I'm going to flip this block over because I want to point something out to you. So when I went to press this seam, I pressed it in the same direction as this seam. So it's all going this way. So now I flip the other 2 rows over. So I have this one going all the way over here to my right. This one's going to my left and this one's going to my right. The reason why you want those seams going in opposite directions on each row is so that everything fits, so that your seams will match really well. So I'm going to take the second row and bring it on top of the first row. And then line your seams up and make sure that the seam on top is going in the opposite direction than the seam on the bottom. Match those seams. Now, if you've got it lined up right, it's going to feel flat in there. If it feels lumpy and bumpy, ripply, you don't have it lined up right. Then go ahead and place pins at all your seams to hold them in the correct place. Then stitch a 1/4 of an inch seam along there. And then unfold, take this block, or this section, bring it on top. Again, line your seams up, place pins to hold, make sure they're going in opposite directions, and then stitch a 1/4 inch seam along there. So here it is, it's all done. Now you just have one or 2 more steps left. So I want to show you again about the direction of the seams. They're going in opposite directions. This is real important. Then once you're done stitching the rows together, then you want to press the seams, both these two seams, and then once you've finished stitching, then press the seams that you just stitched all in one direction. Then once you're done, you want to make sure that this block came out to 12.5 inches squared, because if you're going to stitch multiple blocks together, they all must be the same size. So here's where that 12.5 inch square quilting ruler comes in handy. So you're just going to place it on there and line it up to see if it is exactly 12.5 inches square. Now this one looks pretty good. I actually did a pretty good job on this one, but they don't always turn out good. I have a little bit of fabric here and a little bit there, and you would need to trim that off. Now what do you do if all the blocks you're making for a quilt are completely off? None of them are the same. I'm going to refer you to one of my older tutorials, but it's really good, and it's all about how to get all of your quilt blocks to the same size without having to start all over again. So that link is going to be listed below your YouTube screen in the description section. So click on Show More or the down arrow and it will expand open. I also will have links to other quilting projects down there. Now I have a lot of quilting books with different patterns showing you how to lay things out. And here is another type of basket quilt. I think she called this one Basket of Cherries. So they're all called something different. It depends on whoever created the block. They create something a little different, they give it their own unique name. But if you'll notice, this is all set on a diagonal. So if it was squared, it'd be sitting differently. This would be going corner to corner. But in order to get this look, you have to turn the blocks so that they can go on this diagonal pattern. So if you want to do something like this, you can go on Google, look up different quilting patterns, go to the library, look up different books. You can even purchase many books on quilting patterns. Now, if you wanted to make this into a square so that it stands up like this, you could cut more half-square triangles and place them on each edge, stitch it, and then square it all up so that you have a nice square. So let's say you're making a large pillow. This is one way of getting it to be squared. If you're interested in more traditional quilt blocks, I have several different beginners quilting series that you can do. This is one of them. There's also another one. And it takes you through all of the steps. I take you through the steps of putting the sashing on, that's these strips right here, and also putting a border on, putting your binding. Every step, I take you all the way through all of it. So you want to look below your YouTube screen for those 2 quilt series that are listed below there. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little basket of flowers quilt block tutorial. I love quilting. That's how I really got started in making clothing, and then I went right into making quilts, and then eventually I progressed into making other little crafts. But I really love quilting. It is a lot of fun, but there are a lot of steps you do need to go through. So you need to have a little bit of patience. Don't forget about all those links that are below your YouTube screen. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.